Hello and welcome back to another episode of Sound Surfing with your host, Samuel Acede. In this episode, we're going to be covering A Rush of Blood to the Head by Coldplay. Now, for this review, we are going to be doing something a little different because, well, how I usually listen to an album, I have to be doing something. And I find that taking a walk is the best way to, really, sit the whole way through it, because albums are long, and it's hard to just sit down in a chair with headphones in and just stay there for 45 to 50 minutes, but taking a walk really lets you, stick with it, see it through, and it gives it a better experience. And so I decided for this review, I'd take you along with me. Released on August 22nd, 2008, A Rush of Blood to the Head was a smash success for Coldplay. With such singles such as Clocks, The Scientist, and In My Place, this made Coldplay a household name. Now, it's a lot more grander and massive than their last album, their debut album, Parachutes, but I still find it keeps that gentle and personal nature that made them so special. Now let's hit the waves and cover A Rush of Blood to the Head, song by song. The intro starts off with a blast of sound, and Chris Martin has this understated power in his vocals. The song has a darkness to it, but it also has a really pretty bridge and outro. Politic is a great way to kick off the album, and it lets you know just how big this one's gonna be. Politic leads really well into the next song off the album, which is also my favorite, In My Place. The song starts off with an iconic drum intro inspired by When the Levee Breaks by Led Zeppelin, and it also has this really catchy guitar riff. Of all the singles, it's my favorite, and like I said, is my favorite off the album. God Put a Smile on Your Face starts off with a guitar riff that is full of texture and has this air of edge to it, which is something that Coldplay doesn't tackle much in their music, especially nowadays. It also probably has my favorite chorus off the album, which is, there's a lot of great choruses off A Rush of Blood to the Head, but I think God Put a Smile on Your Face takes the cake and is one of my favorites off the album. The Scientist is probably the most well-known song off the album, but I think it's the most overrated. Now, while the piano on this track sounds like it's on the brink of tears, and that has carried such an emotion to it, which is great, it just doesn't do much for me. When I was younger, this was my favorite Coldplay song, but now as I've grown older and drifted apart, I just find it to be one of the more blander ones. And it was all yellow. Now, while I prefer Clocks more than The Scientist, I do still find it to be a bit overrated. Now, the piano on this song is absolutely perfect, but it still just doesn't excite me, and it doesn't have that much texture that the first three songs of the album did, and while I do really like it, it's not one of my favorites. Now, while today may be pretty sparse of it, Daylight is a hidden gem off this album. It starts off with a really cool opening, and I think it brings back the darkness that's been lacking in the last two songs that was introduced on God Put a Smile on Your Face. Geese. Honey, you are a rock. Now, if I had to describe Green Eyes in one word, it would be pretty. It is a pretty acoustic-led song that is a really nice letdown from Daylight. And they were all yellow. When the truth is, I think Warning Sign is a bit of a victim of poor track placement. Coming right after Green Eyes, it feels really samey to that song, and I don't know, it doesn't pick up the pace enough to really stick with me. And I think it puts the album into a bit of a low that carries on with the next track. A Whisper is probably my least favorite song off the album. It feels like an interlude that just goes on for a little too long. And it just sounds a bit rough. It's not horrible, it's not bad, but it's not my favorite. A Rush of Blood to the Head builds fantastically. It starts off acoustic-led like Green Eyes, but then emerges into something really huge with a roller coaster-like chorus, with a guitar riff going up and down. It's a fantastic song, and I feel like it energizes the album once again as we lead into the final track, Amsterdam. Now, just as the wind is starting to pick up, we enter our last song off the album, Amsterdam. Now, if I were to say this song was the most beautiful song I've ever heard, that might be a bit of hyperbole, but at the same time, I don't think it is. Because the way this track builds, like the last one, it turns into something really, really special. I love the opening, how it's just this weird noise and then white noise for like 20 seconds, and then the track starts, really. And if the Scientist piano sounded like it was on the brink of tears, Amsterdam sounds like it bawled its eyes out, but it's just starting to see the sunrise, which I can't find today. But this one is one of my favorites, and is a phenomenal way to close the album. Now, in recent years, Coldplay has caught the ire of music fans, and I'm included in that. Their sound has just become really safe, clean, generic, and I feel like they lost something special that they had with their first 4 records. Because when I was younger, Coldplay was my favorite band, but as I grew older, and their sound started to change, I fell out of favor with them. Or they fell out of favor with me. But taking this recent dive back into the music made me realize just how beautiful this band can be. So the songs I think you should check off on the songs I think you should check out off this album are God Put a Smile on Your Face, In My Place, and Amsterdam. And if you love those songs as much as I do, you will love In My Place. And if you love those songs as much as I do, you will love A Rush of Blood to the Head. So with that, I want to thank you for riding the tide with me, and goodbye. And it was yellow.